This is Brandon D'Alamonte with the City of Pittsburgh's Office of Special Events. I'm excited to bring another interview to you with Charlene Foggie-Barnett from the Carnegie Museum of Art. And she's already touched on kind of the introduction to this event, our Teenie Harris, the man behind the lens display, which you can of course catch in downtown Pittsburgh at the City County Building, as well as on our Facebook and Twitter at PGH Events Office, where we'll be releasing content all month long. So in this interview, Charlene talks a little bit more about Teenie Harris's career, which a lot of people are familiar. He was a long time at the Pittsburgh Courier, but a little bit about what he did before that, how he ended up at the Courier, and how his negatives exactly ended up with the Carnegie Museum of Art. So Charlene, why don't you take us away?
You know, one of the fun facts about the Courier is also for a time there, it ran twice weekly in Pittsburgh, but it also hit the circuit, as they used to say, or, you know, the press circuit. And so a lot of the photos you would see in other Black press, like the Chicago Defender, or as time went on, something like Ebony Magazine or Jet Magazine, those were actually sometimes coming from Pittsburgh, and they were Teenie's shots. So what people loved about what was going on in Pittsburgh was because Teenie was capturing not just the city of Pittsburgh as Pittsburghers, but also this transition that the city went through. You know, we're right over the Mason-Dixon line, and all of these entertainers and politicians and people coming north for work, they're all kind of migrating and either stopping in Pittsburgh and staying, or they're coming for a time. And so Pittsburgh was a hustle bustle kind of place, especially the Hill District, for minorities. And there were many minorities in the Hill, not just African Americans, but Jewish families, Polish families, and Italian families. And so that's another part of what Teenie captured. He's showing you how we really lived. You know, it wasn't a sterile, separated, segregated situation. It was always integrated. And I think that his career allows us to see a proof positive of what is sometimes considered, oh, well, that neighborhood was like that, or this neighborhood was like that. But Teenie is showing you the homogenous society we actually lived in, and also the segregation, the strife that we went through and whatnot. So he initially, like I said, he got a loan from Woogie that he probably didn't have to pay back, but for like $3,500 to get his camera equipment. And then he opened a studio, Harris Studio on Center Avenue in 1938. And there are so many beautiful shots, portrait shots taken from inside the studio. And some of the most endearing are the soldiers who were either taking photos alone or with a sweetheart or a wife. And some of these gentlemen didn't make it back. And so these photos are somewhat unidentified, but they're just beautiful, beautiful shots of people doing so many things, dancers posing in the studio, women who are dressed to the nines getting their photo taken, children having a photo with siblings. These were how he started. And because of what he was able to do, the Courier picked up on that and asked him to, you know, submit some shots. And he was freelancing with the Courier. And basically, he did this for a long, long time. But he got so busy doing things outside of the studio and running, you know, like I said, to society events or newsworthy events. And he always had a great car because Woogie would, his brother Woogie would give him his old car, which was usually only about a year old.
Yeah.
And so Teenie had these beautiful cars, and he kept a little filing system of photos in the trunk all the time, these boat-sized cars. And
yeah.
But he went everywhere in this car, and he found that he was not using the studio as much, and he could set up portrait photos in other places. So he closed it to save some money. He actually sublet it.
Yeah.
And we found out from someone, we were doing an interview with one person, and another person was kind of sifting through some photos we had, and they were making noise when we were recording. And we said, well, could you hold off? And the gentleman said, I just want to show you, this is me. And we were like, what? Let's, okay. So we turned the camera and whatnot to this person to say, well, what were you doing in Teenie's, what looks like you're conducting business in Teenie's studio? And they said, he had sublet it to them because he still had a lease and they were working in it. So those are the gems that come out of Teenie's career. He ended up working full-time for the Courier, but he maintained his own negatives, the use and possession of his own negatives,
Mm-hmm.
which is why he was able to bring them to the Carnegie.
Well, the Courier had him pay for all his own equipment. Is that right? And
so, yeah, you're right. The Courier was paid for the finished product, but Teenie paid for the cameras, the film, the solutions to develop the film, the envelopes, everything that he needed to be functioning as a photographer, he paid him out of pocket. So, but in a way, thank God, because then what was done with these negatives and these images was up to Teenie. And that's something that people don't realize when they say, well, how did this collection get to the Carnegie Museum of Art? And it got to Carnegie Museum of Art because Teenie brought it here for safekeeping. And there's a long story that goes with that, but bottom line is he knew that this would be a place that would catalog and preserve the health of the negatives so they don't deteriorate any further than they had been, and that people could find access to them through the institution.
And again, the display that Charlene and myself are referring to is an in-person display that you can see in downtown Pittsburgh at the City County building. You can also follow us at PGH Events Office on Facebook and Twitter, where we'll be releasing content all month long, including videos and more interviews with Charlene, as well as photos from the Teenie Harris archives. And if you have any questions about the display, feel free to reach out at PGH Events Office. And we also encourage you to visit the Carnegie Museum of Art's Teenie Harris display entitled In Sharp Focus, where you get the other half of the story about the work that Teenie Harris did in the community. So Charlene, if anyone has questions about the Carnegie Museum of Art display, what's the best way to reach you?
You can always contact the museum and ask for the Teenie Harris office. That's where I'll be. My phone number is 412-622-1012 for my direct line. And I think we'll add my email so you can see it. It's a long one, so we'll write it out for you. But yeah, just contact the museum, and we're happy to work with you in any way we can.
All right, Charlene, thanks so much.
Thank you, Brandon.